All right. I think we are live. Okay, yeah, I think we're live. Welcome everyone to the webinar. While I get set up here, I definitely want to thank you for participating, for joining this webinar. Um, we got our lights working this time. For those of you who were on the webinar last month, you know the debacle that was. But we are here. The lights are working. As far as I know, the audio is working. Please, audio be working. With that said, I would say to let me know in the chat if you can hear me, but I can't see the chat. So with that said, I do have someone in the comment section that will be answering questions because I can't see the comments or questions. So I will have someone in the chat section that'll be answering your questions and all that good stuff and giving you good, competent answers. So if I don't know, kind of glaze over anything, or if I just if you have questions or comments or whatever, just ask them in the comment section, and your answer or your question will be answered. Okay. Also, this webinar will be rebroadcasted on our podcast. So if you missed something or what have you, if you have to step away, then just go to our podcast. Our podcast is the Triniyah podcast. It's found on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those, all the major podcasting platforms. We're on there. So definitely feel free to go by there and check out the replay. Should be up later on today, hopefully. Definitely should be up later on today. So just so you know that we do have that. All right. What else? Who am I? So my name, for those of you who are not familiar, my name is Cameron Norfleet. I am the broker owner of Triniyah Real Estate. Triniyah Real Estate is a new real estate brokerage. I have been in real estate for over 15 years. I was at one of the big brand real estate brokerages. I recently left and started my own brokerage. So I'm definitely happy about that. Here at this brokerage, the mission is to make sure that people are educated as to what they're getting into. So whether you are a new investor or experienced investor, or you're looking to buy your first home, or you're looking to sell a home for the first time, or whatever, even if you're looking to rent, our goal here is to make sure that you know your options, you understand what's going on, because there's nothing worse than getting yourself into a situation only to realize that there are certain things that you should have known prior to getting yourself in that situation. So that is our mission. We strive to make sure that everybody is well educated, because real estate, let's face it, this is definitely one of the largest purchases, if not the largest purchase that people will make in their entire lifetime. Okay. So that's our goal, is to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. All right. So today's webinar is on how to get pre-approved for up to 10 conventional loans. 10 conventional loans. All right. So one might ask, why might I need 10 conventional loans? All right. So nobody really needs that, but if that is your goal, and I would certainly assume if you're here on this webinar, also if you're listening to this podcast, I would certainly assume that you are probably someone who is interested in in income properties and generating income from real estate. And so the conventional loans, how should I say, Fannie Mae will allow you to borrow on 10 10 properties, 10 conventional loans. Okay. And so there are some pitfalls that could stop you from doing that. Even if you set your mind that you are going to acquire 10 properties or 10 conventional mortgages, there are some pitfalls that you'll want to watch out for so that you don't, get yourself jammed up and not actually end up reaching your goals. With that said, there are other ways to acquire property, to acquire a large amount of property outside of conventional. There's commercial loans. There's private money. There's plenty of other ways. And with that said, I did say conventional loans, and we're talking about residential property. Just so you know, you can get commercial loans on residential property. And when I say residential property, I mean everything from single family property right up on up to a 4-unit property. And for those of you who may not know, a commercial property is anything that is above 4 units. So 5+ units is considered as a residential property. Even if they're all residential units, is just considered as commercial residential. All right, but it is considered as a commercial property. But my point being that you can actually acquire commercial loans on a 3-family property, a 2-family property, or even a single family property. All right. So just want to make sure that you're aware of that. So with that said, why are we even doing this webinar on conventional loans? Well, one reason is because if you can get conventional loans, they generally come at a much lower interest rate. And as I'm sure you guys know, in today's market, interest rates are high. So you definitely, if you can, it's likely in your best interest to go with a conventional loan as opposed to a commercial loan for that reason. All right. Now, with that said, I mean, if for one reason or another you can't qualify for a conventional loan, get the property, go with the commercial loan. It's better than not having the property at all. So, but that's why we're talking about conventional loans, is because if you can qualify for one, then you'll want to go with the conventional loans. All right, just want to put that out there. All right, so I'm talking about qualifying for them. So how do we do this? So let me let me take this off first. I was just right there. Get rid of that, and let's bring up the slide. I'll keep myself on the screen for now. There we go. All right. So how to get approved for 10 conventional mortgages. All right, let's get into this. So what is a conventional mortgage? A conventional mortgage is a type of home loan that is not insured or guaranteed by the federal government. So with that said, your FHA loans, USDA loans, VA loans, all of those are federally insured loans. What does that mean? Basically means that if the borrower was to default, let's say that someone purchased a property for however much money, $300,000 or whatever the case is, they buy the property, they're getting a FHA loan, they put down 3.5%, and a couple months later, a couple years later, whatever the case is, they end up defaulting on that mortgage. Well, with a FHA, VA, USDA loan, let me take this logo off. I just noticed that. Where do I do that? There we go. All right. So with one of those loans, the federal government would step in and make the lender whole. So it's much less risk because the federal government pretty much tells the banks, like, listen, we know that these borrowers are putting down very little money. If they default, if you have to foreclose on them, we're going to go ahead and pay you. All right. So that's why it's a much less risk, for the bank to go with with one of those loan products. Now, a conventional loan does not have that. These are not federally insured or guaranteed by the federal government. So, you know, that's one reason why, for the most part, many times you have to put down a larger deposit. Actually, let's go to the next slide. Talk about that deposit a little bit. So, down payment requirements. A conventional loan, a conventional mortgage requires a down payment of 20% or more of the purchase price to avoid a PMI to avoid PMI insurance. All right. So, what is PMI? PMI is basically it's similar to what I was just talking about before. Whereas with these government insured loans, the government will step in and make a lender whole if the borrower defaults. Well, with private mortgage insurance, if you're putting down less than 20%, then that private insurance company will make the bank whole if you default on the loan. All right. So that's pretty much what private mortgage insurance is. Also, with that said, let me note that these loans are often sold on the secondary market. What is secondary market? That is after you purchase a property. If you have a conventional mortgage, after you purchase it, that bank that loaned you the money is likely going to package up your loan with a bunch of other loans, and they're going to sell that on the secondary market, or it actually gets sold to Wall Street. Okay. So, the people on Wall Street, they don't want to buy any junk, right? So, they have guidelines as to what the bank, what type of profile the borrower must have and the property must have. Now, when it comes to the property, for the most part, it's it has to be a 1 to 4 unit property, and there's other small things here and there. But as far as the borrower is concerned, you have to have this type of credit score. You have to put down X amount, percentage. You have to, they have to package it up a certain way so that it's actually an attractive investment for those on Wall Street, those on the secondary market. So that is what those are characteristics of a conventional loan. All right. Now we're not going to get into it, but we could talk about non-QM loans or non-qualifying mortgages. And those are loan products that do not qualify they do not fit in that box. And Wall Street investors really have no interest in that, and likely the bank will keep that in-house. But we're not going to go there. I just want to kind of touch on that. Excuse me. So that is that. So there have been some recent changes. All right. Some recent changes in the market. And if you kind of follow a lot of the real estate gurus and such on Instagram and YouTube and all that, there's several people that have been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. Okay, the recent changes that have taken place with conventional loans. All right, so Fannie Mae recently changed their guidelines to allow borrowers to put down a minimum of 5% on multifamily properties for owner-occupied properties only. All right, so you may have or you may not have heard about this, but the old guidelines call for 15% down on 2-family properties and 25% down on 3 and 4 unit properties, regardless if you're going to live in the property or not. All right. But now things have changed. Now, if you're going to live in the property, you can now get a conventional loan through Fannie Mae and only put down 5%. So now I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first heard about this program, I didn't like it because I don't know. I didn't realize that it was only 5% down, or I'm sorry, that it was only owner occupant loans. I really don't, because the way that it was explained to me was this is just for conventional mortgages, and I am very much against investors, specifically newer investors, because newer investors are usually looking for cash flow. So I'm very against, something like that, to whereas, an investor can get into a rental property for 5% down. Sounds attractive, especially for someone that's never done it before. But that would be horrible to put it lightly, really. That would not be a good situation. I think that any investor that would put themselves in that situation, you're probably newer, you probably don't have much capital, and you would quickly realize that it was not a good decision. So I actually do think that 25% down on non-owner occupied properties like investment properties, that's a good thing, because that actually helps you to cash flow. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to get that up. We're also going to talk about how to utilize this new program, whereas if you're going to live in the property, you can get into it for 5% down. All right, so we're going to talk about all that. All right, so there are two ways to there's two ways that we're going to talk about today that you can acquire conventional mortgages, or 10 conventional mortgages, excuse me. One is the good old-fashioned, tried and true, putting down 25% on each property that you purchase. All right, you do that, and you're good to go. But the problem is, how are you going to get that 25% up? All right, so we'll talk about that. All right, so that's one way. The second way that we're going to talk about today is house hacking using the Fannie Mae home style loan. All right, so we're going to dive into both of those. But first, we're going to talk about this, putting down 25%. All right, because I know that is always a big thing for newer investors that are trying to get into the game and accumulate a bunch of properties. It's like, okay, so maybe you did save up a large sum of money to buy this one property, but now you used your what, 50, 60, 70, 80, $90,000 to purchase this property, and now it's gone. Now you have this cash flow coming in. Now are you just gonna kind of save up slowly and so on and so forth? And how long is it going to take you to actually get your second property, and your third property, and your fourth property, so on and so forth? We're going to talk about all that. Okay. So we're going to talk about that first. So next slide is how to come up with your 25% down payment. I'm going to take myself off the screen. And by the way, I do highly recommend that you guys screenshot this. Take good screenshots, of a lot of the slides that I'm going to show you. Take good notes. And again, if you miss anything, just go back to the podcast, but you're not going to get the slides. So that's why I actually say to make sure that you're screenshotting it. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, I am going to read everything that I have on the slide. So you're actually not missing anything except for the visual component, but you're still going to get all the information. All right. So I'm gonna take myself off the screen so you can just screenshot this without my face on there. You still got my brand on there though. Still got the good old fashioned logo, and you ain't getting rid of that. But all right, so that's pretty much that. So how do you come up with that 25% down payment? So one way is partnerships. Okay. One way is partnerships. So now there are a lot of positives and negatives that come along with these partnerships. All right. I always recommend that if you're going to partner with somebody, don't meet somebody at some sort of networking event, some sort of whatever, and immediately jump into a partnership with them. Like, in my opinion, I think you should know someone. But irregardless of, how well you know someone or not, whether you just met them, a month or two ago, or your family, okay, certain things that you want to discuss if you're going to partner with somebody. Now, I've done several partnerships over the years, right? And I highly recommend that you have discussions, what ifs. What happens if this happens? What are we gonna do if that happens? You know, shoot, like cover the hard questions. What happens if one of the partner dies? You know, where does their equity go? What happens what happens if you want to sell the property and I don't want to sell the property? How are we gonna solve that? How are we gonna get past that hurdle? Um, there's so many different things that you'll want to cover, and this is not really the webinar where I'm going to cover that, which gives me an idea. Maybe I'll do a webinar on partnerships and how to structure them and all that. Maybe I'll have an attorney come on and we could talk about partnerships. I think that might be a good. Let me know in the comment section if that's a webinar that you would like to be a part of. Like I said, I would actually have probably have an attorney come on and we could talk about that. I think it sounds like a good idea, but let me know in the comment section. I can't see it right now, but I definitely plan to go back and look at the comments after this. So as far as coming up with the 25% down payment, so I mean, there's one of the great things about partnerships is the fact that you can structure any kind of way that you want. So maybe one of you has the cash, or maybe one of you has more cash than the other. Maybe one of you doesn't have any cash at all. Who knows? But maybe the one that doesn't have the cash has the time to manage the property. All right. So you guys come together and purchase this property. One person comes up with the down payment. Another person, is going to manage the property or what have you. Maybe you're coming up with half of the down payment. The other person's coming up with half. However you guys decide to structure it, just know that this is one great way to come up with the down payment for your first or your next investment property, is if you partner with someone. All right. House flipping. Now, this is a great way, in my opinion. This is a great way to save up for your down payment very quickly. Well, relatively quickly. And that is by flipping houses. One thing that many flippers do is they're only flipping properties to come up with their down payments so that they can put down 25% on a property that they're actually going to hold on to. All right. So they're flipping these single family houses, or, a lot of times even these 2-family houses, so that they can buy the 3 and 4 unit properties if they're using conventional loans, so they can get a conventional loan on these 3 and 4 unit properties. And, it just helps you to kind of, it kind of pushes you forward a lot quicker, as opposed to, just kind of dragging along and saving the money. Partnerships does the same thing. You may have someone that's maybe they're just going to be an equity partner or what have you. These are two great ways to quickly, quickly is relative. What I say is quick, you might think takes long, and vice versa, but relatively quickly come up with a down payment for your first or your next investment property using a conventional loan. Then, of course, there's side hustles and good old fashioned frugality. All right. So we see here on the bottom. I'm gonna take myself off the screen again. If you haven't screenshotted this, then you can screenshot that now. But it says that the average 3-family property in Hartford and New Haven County is about $360,000. All right. So the average 25% down payment is going to be about $90,000. So how fast can you come up with this $90,000? Well, if you're flipping houses, and you're doing good and so on and so forth, that honestly, $90,000, that might be one deal. That might be one deal, or two, depending on the project. But even if that's 2 flips, I mean, how quickly can you get 2 flips done, right? So that's one great way to do it. But back on side hustles and frugality, I mean, let me say this first. I'm not a fan of trying to do this quickly. All right. I'm more a fan of doing it smart. All right. I'm not a big fan of get rich quick type situation. I'm more of a fan of getting wealthy slowly. All right. Fast money usually comes fast and goes fast. All right. Real estate is a long-term game. Real estate is a long-term game. So, if you're doing this for legacy, you're doing this for your children, so on and so forth. Real estate is it's a long-term thing. If you're looking for buy and hold properties, likely you're looking to hold on to this property for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever the case may be. All right. So be patient, practice some patience. And keeping that in mind, it's okay to have your little side hustles, your legal side hustles, to save up for your down payments, right? And then there's good old fashioned frugality. Now when I say frugality, I'm not necessarily talking about don't buy Starbucks coffee because it's too expensive. Like I'm not necessarily talking about that, because we're talking about saving $90,000. Spending $5 on a coffee, it's going to take you a long time to save your $90,000 because you're not buying coffee. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But just when you get some extra cash, rather that is what we're in October now. So I mean, and not too much longer, we're going to be talking about taxes, right? Tax returns. When you get your tax return, set that aside. I mean, who know, how much you usually get back on your taxes. That could be, a decent chunk right there. That coupled with investing that money in whatever, something that's relatively safe in my opinion, because you don't want to lose your deposit. But invest that money wisely. If you got to do some Ubering, or you got to do some, working overtime at your job, like I said, this is something that you're going to be doing to to better your future. So just some things to keep in mind, and also on along the lines of frugality. What's his name? Dave Ramsey actually has a pretty good saying that I like to say, and that is that if you don't tell your money where to go, you always wonder where your money went, right? And that boils down to frugality, man. Like you have to allocate your money to go somewhere, or you're always going to wonder, where did my money go? So hunker down and budget. I know nobody likes the B word, all right, but hunker down, budget, assign your money a task, assign your capital a task of what you're going to do with it. Put some money to the side and save. How you gonna get to your 25% down payment? You're gonna save for it, right? And that's pretty much that. I mean, I wish I had an easier way for you. I do have a different way for you. I don't know if it's easier, but that's pretty much that. All right, as far as coming up with the down payment, this has been done for years and years and years and years and years. This is how people have come up with their 25% down payment for to amass a large portfolio of properties for the longest. Just good old fashioned frugality. Live within your means. Don't buy anything crazy. Don't go out and get the most expensive car and things of that nature. All right, live below your means. Even forget live within your means. Live below your means slightly. I'm not saying to live you know what I'm saying. But yeah, be frugal, be smart with your money, and that's one way to save up for your next down payment. All right, let's get into house hacking. All right, so house hacking with Fannie Mae home style loans. So a Fannie Mae home style loan is very, very similar to the FHA 203K loan. All right. And for those of you that are not familiar with the FHA 203K loan, let's give a very brief breakdown. So these both, whether it be the FHA 203K as well as the Fannie Mae home style loans, these loans allow borrowers to borrow the money to purchase the property as well as renovate the property. Okay. You put down with the FHA 203K, you put down 3.5%. And that's pretty much that. They allow you to like I said, they will loan you the money to the rest of the money to purchase the property and all of the money to renovate the property. It really is a great deal. I've done it myself. The home that I'm currently living in, I used a 203K for that. It was about $90,000 for the renovation. I borrowed the whole thing. Great program. Can't speak highly enough of the program. And that was the FHA 203K. The Fannie Mae home style is, like I said, it's very similar. And I'm actually thinking now. I'm thinking about possibly doing a webinar, two separate webinars, one on the Fannie Mae home style loan and one on the 203K loan. Let me know in the comment section if you think that's something that you would be interested in. Yeah, sounds like a good idea to me. But let me know. And if you guys are watching this on a podcast, let me see. Shoot me an email. I'm going to go with, and I have to create this because I'm saying it now and I don't have this right now. But by the time this airs, it will be, airs on the podcast. It will be a thing. But email me at podcast@Triniyah.com. Podcast@Triniyah.com. Triniyah is TRINIYAH. All right. If that's something that you would be interested in as well. That way also that will put you on my email list and I'll let you'll be on the email list, so you'll actually get notices when I'm doing my my webinars and which webinars I'm doing and so on and so forth. So let's not get too off track. House hacking with Fannie Mae homestyle loans. So I highly recommend that if you are looking to get multiple investment properties, multiple properties, that you buy properties that need a significant amount of work. Okay, properties that need a significant amount of work. Why are you doing that? Because you typically can buy those below market value, and you can build equity by making the repairs. All right. So you buy a property for $200,000. You put $50,000 into it, and after you put that $250,000 into it, you're all in for. I'm sorry, what did I just say? You buy a property for $200,000. You put $50,000 into it, and at that time you're all in for $250,000, but the property is worth $300,000. Right, and I'm just making that up off the top of my head, but that's the gist of what I'm getting at, and that's why it makes much more sense to only buy properties that need a large amount of work. If you are trying to do this and accumulate 10 conventional mortgages on 10 properties, all right, this is one of the best ways to do it. Again, you don't have to do it this way. You could save your 25% and do it that way. That's perfectly fine. But if you want to do it by house hacking, this is the way that I recommend doing it. Also, only buy 3 and 4 unit properties. Okay, only buy 3 and 4 unit properties. I'll get into this much more detail later on, but one of the biggest reasons why is because what is called DTI, your debt to income ratio. All right, you want to have the income from the 3 or 4 unit property to so that your DTI is not out of whack. And believe me, I will dive much more into that in a minute. Okay. So only get yourself into 3 and 4 unit properties using the Fannie Mae home style loan. All right. And avoid lifestyle creep. Avoid lifestyle creep. What do I mean by that? I always recommend to people that are newer investors to don't live off of the cash flow. Hopefully all your properties are cash flowing. All right. Let's just say this is your first investment property or your second investment property. Do not take the cash flow and start buying stuff, start going on vacation, start doing this, that, and the other. Set that money aside, all the cash flow that comes in, put it into an account and think of it as the property's money. You bought 123 Main Street, and the rental income is flowing in from 123 Main Street, well, that money is 123 Main Street's money. It ain't your money. That's how I think about it. So avoid lifestyle creep at all costs. The money is coming in. Try to utilize some discipline, and don't live off of it. I don't know how much more I can really go into it, but don't live off that money. Just let it build, and that's going to also help you to save up for your 25% down payment on the next property. So avoid lifestyle creep at all costs. Okay. Let's see here. Let's talk about the guidelines. So on a Fannie Mae homestyle loan, and which is conventional. I don't know if I said that already, but Fannie Mae homestyle loans, they are conventional loans. All right. But it has to be a 1 to 4 unit property, and it cannot be mixed use. What is a mixed use property? Well, a mixed use property is, we see them here in the Northeast all the time. So you have some stores or some sort of commercial unit. Could be some stores, maybe a beauty salon or whatever on the first floor. And the upstairs are residential units. That is a mixed use property. It's not fully commercial. It's not fully residential. It's a mixed use property. Well, conventional, you cannot get a conventional loan on a commercial, on commercial either, but you cannot get a conventional loan on a mixed use property, unfortunately. All right. So it has to be a pure residential property with 1 to 4 units. All right. And that could be condos. It could be, townhouses and all that. I'm just saying that those are eligible. I don't recommend it. Like I said on the last slide, I recommend a 3 or 4 unit property. Okay. But I just wanted to let you know that you cannot do mixed use. All right. You must intend to live in the property for at least 1 year. Again, let me take myself off here. You may have screenshotted already. I don't know. But if you want to screenshot it without my face, there you go. So you must live in the property for at least 1 year. So I did say intend. All right. And I mean, you must intend to live in the property for at least 1 year. So now here's the thing. It's not uncommon that someone would say, that they want to buy a property using FHA or what have you. I haven't had anybody so far to say that they want to buy something, using a Fannie Mae homestyle loan and not live in it. But it's not uncommon that people will ask me, about a FHA loan and not live in it. Let me just say this. If you are buying a property for investment purposes and you're not planning to live in it, and you don't live in it, you're not planning to live in it from the get-go, you're breaking the law. You're committing mortgage fraud, in which you could go to jail for that. All right. So I'm gonna leave that at that. You must intend to live in the property for at least 1 year. I'll keep it at that. All right. You must have a contingency reserve of at least 10%. What does that mean? Well, so let's just say the renovations are going to be $100,000 to renovate this property. Well, your contract, the work itself. All right, let me put it like this: for a $100,000 budget, renovation budget, 10% of that is allocated towards contingency reserve, meaning that your contractor bid can only come in at $90,000 because that other $10,000 is contingency. It's a contingency reserve. All right. So just that's one thing to note, just in terms of Fannie Mae homestyle loans. And I'm gonna go off a little bit off topic and just talking about that contingency reserve. A bit of advice. If your contractor is very familiar with Fannie Mae homestyle, they're going to know that you have at least a 10% contingency reserve. And be careful because it's very possible that they'll quote you at $90,000, knowing good and well that they are going to come up with some reason why they have to dip into your contingency reserve. Okay. So just be mindful of that. Be careful of that because it happens all the time. All right, it happens all the time. So that's that. Just be careful with that. All right. Let's see here. The loan approval process. Okay. So we're going to talk about debt to income ratio. All right. And I'm going to take myself off the screen so that you can screenshot this. All right. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I'm going to read it to you. All right. So what is DTI? DTI is your debt to income ratio. The debt to income ratio is a financial metric that lenders and financial institutions use to assess a borrower's ability to manage their debt obligations and make timely payments. It is an important factor in determining a person's creditworthiness when applying for loans. When applying for loans, mortgages, or other forms of credit. The DTI ratio is expressed as a percentage and represents the portion of the person's monthly income that goes towards paying their monthly debt obligations. All right, that is your DTI. And don't worry, I will break it down for you much more. Okay, go to the next slide here. So, how to calculate your DTI? All right. I'm trying to think if I should go back. You know what? Let me just go back and talk a little bit more about this. All right. So and I hope I'm not just kind of beating a dead horse. Well, I'm sure there's people that probably don't even know, have probably never even heard of a DTI. So, yeah, this is basically how the bank determines. This is one of the major ways that the banks determine if you can afford this property or not. Okay. I tell people that your DTI, contrary to popular belief, your DTI is just as important as your credit score. Everybody knows that if you're going to purchase a property, you have to have good credit or decent credit at least. Okay, you can't have like horrible credit and get a conventional loan. I was gonna say and buy a property, but that's not true. You can buy a property with bad credit, but you're not gonna buy a property using a conventional loan with bad credit. Okay. But with that said, you're also not going to buy a property using a conventional loan if your debt to income ratio is out of whack. All right. So this is the thing. This is where I'm going to be spending the most time and harping on. We actually gone a lot longer than I thought I was going to go before I got to this point. But we got time well spent. All right. Or time far spent and well spent. But anyway, your debt to income ratio is extremely important. Okay. And I'm going to go into how to calculate it because this is something that you are going to want to monitor throughout the process. All right. Even if you're not necessarily looking to buy property in the next couple of months or whatever the case may be, maybe you know that you're a year out from buying your next property or 2 years out from buying your next property. You always want to keep an eye on your debt to income ratio. All right, just to make sure that it's not out of whack and that that you will be in a position to buy when you feel like you're ready, or shoot, if an opportunity presents itself, because sometimes that happens. An opportunity just presents itself, and you have a potential deal on your hands. And if your DTI is not in check, you're not going to be able to qualify for a conventional mortgage. All right. So let's talk about how to calculate your DTI. All right. So first things first, you start by adding up all your monthly debt payments. This includes payments on mortgages, credit cards, student loans, child support payments, car loans, personal loans, and any other ongoing debt obligations. So one thing that I want to point out is the fact that I said your debt payments. All right. I'm not talking about your overall debt. I'm talking about your debt payments. So if you have a credit card for $10,000, I'm sorry, a credit card that has a $10,000 balance on it, and your monthly payment is $200. And I don't even know if that's, I didn't do the math on this and see if that's actually where it would be. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. you're maxed out or whatever. Your credit is you. What am I saying here? Got some other things on the brain. But you owe $10,000 on this particular credit card, but your monthly payment is $200. Which one of those numbers goes into your equation for your calculation for the DTI? If you look here, it says your payments. So nobody's necessarily concerned, or the bank is not so much looking at your the amount that you owe. Oh, I owe $10,000. I owe $20,000. What they're looking at is the monthly payment. Okay, so keep that in mind with all of these debts. Okay, when we're talking about child support, we're talking about car loans. It doesn't matter if you have a $50,000 car loan. They're more so concerned about what is the payment on that car loan. Okay, with that said, it's easiest if you just don't have debt. It's easy. It's actually a lot easier if you just don't have debt. So get rid of your debt, and then you don't have to worry about this DTI so much. Okay. So yeah, just want to put that out there because again, this is something that you guys are going to be calculating all the time, just to make sure that your DTI is is where it should be or better. So let's talk about number 2. We are talking about the debt. Okay, so the next thing after you calculate all of your debts, you're going to calculate your monthly gross income. All right, so you want to determine your monthly gross income, and which is your total income before taxes and other deductions. This can include your salary, wages, rental income, alimony, child support, and other sources of verifiable income. And I really want to stress the word verifiable income. So if you have, I didn't mean to do that. If you have some income that's coming in under the table, right? I don't know, maybe you cut hair, maybe you whatever, you have some under the table income that's coming in. They're not counting that. Okay, this has to be verifiable income. So if you're cutting hair, if you're braiding hair, if you're doing something to get under the table cash, right? And that's how you're making your money. Sorry to tell you, but either they're not going to accept it, or, well, I just say make sure that you're claiming on your taxes. I'll put it like that. Okay, make sure that you're claiming it on your taxes, because then it's verifiable income. It's not necessarily a horrible thing if you're receiving cash. It's as long as you are claiming it on your taxes. Now, with that said, I'm not a fan of landlords that collect rent payments in cash. I think it's a bad idea for a number of reasons. But in talking to people that actually do accept cash, one of the reasons that they do it is because they feel like, they won't be taxed on that money, because they don't claim it on their taxes. So this is where it bites you in the butt. When you don't claim these funds on your taxes, well, now when you go to buy another property, you can't qualify because you don't make enough income. All right. And again, that's whether we're talking rental income or any other type of income. If you don't claim the income on your taxes, then you can't use it. All right. So you screw yourself over. So pay your taxes and buy property. Property ownership actually comes with a lot of tax benefits, that's embedded in it. So there's no need to, screw yourself over by trying to do something that's illegal. All right. Another thing that I want to mention is going back to your debt. So as you accumulate more properties, the mortgage payments, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on the properties that you own, that is counted against you, because that's debt. That's a monthly payment that you have to pay. So though, again, as you accumulate more properties, you're accumulating more mortgages, and they're seeing, okay, well, he or she has a $2,000 mortgage over here, a $3,000 mortgage over here, a $2,500 mortgage over here, a $5,000 mortgage over here, mortgage payments. I'm talking about monthly mortgage payments. So this person has a lot of cash, a lot of money that's going out every month. So another thing that is vitally important is that you make sure that you keep your rents at market rate. All right. And if you're a renter right now, then you're probably going to hate what I'm saying right now. All right. But if you are trying to get multiple mortgages, then it's not going to serve you well to have tenants that are paying below market value. Why? Because again, the bank is going to, when you're going for that next mortgage, the bank is going to be looking at the monthly mortgage payments that you're already responsible to pay. And if you don't have the income to cover those, then they're not going to qualify you for another mortgage. Okay. So you want to make sure that you keep your incoming rents at market rate, because if not, you're just going to screw yourself over in the end anyway. All right. So that is that. Let's see here. Number 3 is to calculate your debt to income ratio. And you do this by dividing your total monthly debt payments by your monthly gross income. And then you multiply the result by 100 to express it as a percentage. All right. All right. So the formula of the DTI ratio is, just to kind of go over it again, it is your total monthly debt payments divided by your gross income. And then you multiply that by 100. So I have an example on the next screen. All right. And I'm sorry for those that are listening on the podcast, because I mean, I don't know, maybe your brain is better than my brain, but my brain would be fried right now. But one more reason to make sure that you are on my email list. Let me put myself back on the screen for this. One more reason for you to be on my email list, so that you can be a part of these webinars and actually see what we're talking about, as opposed to just listening to it. So if that's the case, shoot me an email if you want to be on my email list and you're listening to this on the podcast. Shoot me an email. Shoot me an email at Cameron@Triniyah.com, and I'll put you on my email list. All right, let's get in here. So DTI example, how to calculate your DTI. So if your monthly debt payment amount is $1,500 and your monthly gross income is $5,000, you calculate the DTI as follows. That is $1,500 divided by $5,000, and then you multiply that by 100, and which will give you a 30% debt to income ratio. In this example, your DTI is 30%, meaning that 30% of your monthly income goes toward paying off debt. Right. So this is the formula that banks use, again, just to see if you have too much debt based on the amount of income that you have. All right. You don't want to be in that situation. All right. You want to be able to afford your debts. Yeah, we're going to the next slide. So take myself off the screen so you guys can screenshot this. Make sure you are screenshotting all of these and reviewing them later. So the interpretation of the debt to income ratio. So a lower DTI ratio indicates that you have a smaller proportion of your income tied up in debt payments. Lenders generally view a lower DTI ratio as a positive sign, because it suggests that you have more financial flexibility and may be more capable of taking on additional debt. A higher DTI ratio means that a larger proportion of your income is going towards debt payments. Lenders may view a higher DTI ratio as a riskier financial situation, as it could indicate that you might struggle to manage your additional debt. All right. Different lenders may have varying acceptable DTI ratios, but a common guideline is that a DTI ratio of 43% or lower is often considered favorable for most lenders. However, some lenders may have stricter DTI requirements. It is essential to understand your DTI ratio and work on managing your debt if necessary, as it can significantly impact your ability to qualify for loans and the interest rates you may receive when borrowing money. Okay, so I want to touch on that a bit. All right, so um, if you do have a higher DTI, and when I say higher, I mean like you're close to 43%, like not over. If you do have a higher DTI ratio, that could translate into having a higher interest rate on the property that you're purchasing. And if you have a higher interest rate on the property that you're purchasing, that that may require you to actually have less debt than if you had a lower DTI. I don't know if I kind of threw you off with that. But if your DTI is too high, again, being close to 43%, sometimes you'll have a higher interest rate, and having a higher interest rate might actually disqualify you if you have too much debt, because your DTI ratio, that might actually throw you out of whack and make you ineligible to get this loan because your DTI ratio is too high, because of the current mortgage that you're going for is going to have the interest rate is going to be too high, which means that your monthly payment is going to be too high. All right. So all that, I don't know, I feel like that was way too confusing, but I say all that to say, to make sure that your DTI is as low as possible. All right. Lower than 43% if possible. Okay. Excuse me, as far below 43% as possible. And the same goes for credit scores. If you have if you have a lower credit score, you might be able to qualify. But again, a lower credit score means a higher interest rate. And by having a higher interest rate, that might disqualify you from actually getting approved for a loan. All right, for this particular loan. So that's something that you want to watch out for. All right, so we're going to talk about the mortgage underwriting process. And I'm going to take myself off the screen so that you guys can screenshot this one as well. All right, so it is so vitally important that you stay organized. Okay, organize your financial documents. All right. Again, I hope you guys are screenshotting this. I'm about to come back on the screen. All right. Now I am a huge proponent of being paperless. All right. Yes, it saves the environment. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about right now, though. Not that that's anyway. I highly recommend that you stay organized, even if you're using paper. I think it's best to be paperless, because it's easier to send documents, when you have everything on some sort of cloud storage. All right. I find it a whole lot easier to stay organized by keeping everything online. That's just me. Maybe you're different, but that's just me. So I highly recommend that you organize yourself so that when you are applying for these mortgages, that you have all the documents that you need. It helps you to get through the underwriting process so much more smoothly, because they may ask you for a lot of documents, and you want to have easy access to those documents so that you can get those documents to the underwriter as quickly and as seamlessly as possible. Okay, so stay organized as you and this is as it pertains to your properties, and as it pertains to any and all income that's coming in. Stay organized. Make sure that you keep documents of all your financial affairs, because you never know what the appraiser is going to ask for. All right. So let me get off the screen. And again, if you haven't screenshotted this already, you can do that now. All right. But let's see here. So income documentation. Gather your pay stubs from the last several months to demonstrate your current income. If you're self-employed or have verifiable income, you may need to provide tax returns or profit and loss statements for the last 2 years. Let me come back on the screen really quick. So I recently, when I say recently, it was actually last year. I actually bought another home, an owner-occupied home. Okay, and I used, I think I said this already. I used an FHA 203K to buy this property. Now, when I was in underwriting, they were asking me for a lot of stuff. Okay, um, but one thing that I want to talk about is they kind of picked on one particular property, and I have no idea why they picked this one property, but they wanted to see everything. They wanted my profit and loss statements on that property. They wanted my mortgage statements on that property. They wanted everything on that one property. Fortunately, I'm a pretty organized guy, so fortunately, um, I had everything available, and I used property management software. So it was nothing for me to just go in and pull a P&L, profit and loss. So it was easy for me to get everything to them. But that just drives home the point that you want to be organized. Okay. And for those of you who don't know, a profit and loss is just basically, whereas you take your, you can see all your profits, or all of your income, I should say. It shows all of your income, it shows all of your expenses, and then you could actually see underneath what your profit or your profit or your loss is based on that there. Okay. So I had everything that they were looking for, but it's just, it was a relief because I had everything. So that's why I tell you to make sure that you stay organized. If you are looking to buy 10 properties or more, like, understand that when you get to underwriting, you have to have all your ducks in a row. Got to have all your ducks in a row. All right. So stay organized. All right. Bank statements. Collect recent bank statements for all your accounts, including checking, savings, and any other relevant accounts. Be prepared to explain any large deposits or withdrawals. You got to come back on the screen for this one too. All right. So the underwriter almost always asks questions about, if there's a large withdrawal or a large deposit in your account. Oh, my light is going out. If there is a large, let me just turn it off. Oh, it's gonna get dark. Light is going off. Sorry. Okay. So that's that. But yeah, they are. Sometimes they ask for reasons why you have large deposits in your bank account. And I guess it's a thing to where they're looking to see, they want to know, is this person, where's this money coming from? All right. Is this illegal money? Is this, is there money laundering going on? Is this tied to some sort of, organization, whatever? They're going to want to know where the funds are coming from if they see large deposits. Now, what is a large deposit? I've seen them ask, this is a $500 deposit. Where did this come from? It's not your paycheck. It's not, all the verifiable income that we see. It did not come from there. So you have to explain, where did it come from? Okay. So make sure that you can explain everything that is in your bank account, every transaction. Okay. Make sure that you can explain it. And a lot of times this is because there are acceptable sources and unacceptable sources of where money could be coming from in order to help you come up with this down payment. So you want to be able to explain and justify different deposits that are coming into your account. With that said, I recommend also possibly even just open up a totally different account. Okay. And only deposit money into that account that you plan to use for to qualify for the mortgages. So your rental income goes into that account. If you have W-2 income that you plan to have the underwriter use to help you qualify, that goes into that account. And any other funds, I don't know, maybe your cousin owes you $5,000 or whatever, put that in another account. Okay, because you don't need to try to justify and explain where that money came from. All right. So have your account that you're planning to use for qualification purposes, and let that be that. Okay, so that's one suggestion when it comes to that. All right, let me come off the screen. Tax returns. So typically a lender will request your last 2 years of federal tax returns, which is Form 1040, with all schedules and attachments. If you file for an extension, provide proof of that as well. So really, like I said, just all of your whole financial life, Make sure that you are saving all that so that you can qualify for these mortgages. All right. Asset and liability information. Make sure that, make a list of all of your assets, including real estate, vehicles, investments, retirement accounts, and also list your liabilities such as credit card balances, student loans, and car loans. All right. Is this the last? Yeah, this is the last one. All right. So that's vitally important as well. You want to make sure that you know where your money's at. If you have money in a 401k, a IRA, or whatever, you want to know where your money is at, right? And this just all boils down to being organized. It just all boils down to being organized. All right. And you want to, and I really didn't cover this because this is kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of common sense, but you want to guard your credit with your life. I'm going to take this off now because this is actually my last slide. How do I get rid of this? There we go. So you actually want to guard your credit with your life. Guard your credit with your life. You definitely have to. You got to have good credit because, like I said, if you got bad credit, that's even if you're able to qualify, that's going to give you a higher interest rate, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that kind of trouble. All right. But also make sure that keep your debt in check as much as you possibly can. If you are doing this house hacking strategy, then it's likely that once you move, you're probably going to want to get new furniture and things of that nature. Don't put it on a credit card. Okay. Don't put it on a credit card. Avoid any type of unnecessary loans. Okay. Now listen, I never said this was going to be easy. I told you I'm going to tell you how to do it, but I never said it's going to be easy. I'm up here telling you to be frugal. I'm up here telling you to, save money and, not put money on a credit card and so on and so forth. Avoid all of that. Okay. Avoid new car loans. Avoid, like I said, credit card debt. Please don't co-sign for anybody else's car. Just guard your credit with your life, at least until after you get these properties. Okay. At least until after you get to your 10 conventional mortgages, because the thing is, after that, if you still want to buy more properties, you can do that. Like I said, use commercial loans, and they don't look at all this stuff, right? Like 90% of the things that I brought up is irrelevant when we're talking about commercial loans. All right. They look more so at the deal as opposed to to looking so much at your financial situation. All right. But again, it comes at a cost. It's a higher interest rate. Okay. So that's pretty much that. I actually did, like I said, this webinar actually went a little bit smoother, I think, than the last one. But I actually did have some notes that that are not here now for whatever reason. So I kind of did this one off of the top of my head. Obviously, I had the slides here, but I had some notes on the side that are not here now. But I guess that's neither here nor there. But that's pretty much what I have for you guys for today. If you follow these guidelines, you put yourself in a much better position to be able to acquire these 10 conventional mortgages. And again, like I said, after that, if you want to keep buying more properties, partner, use private money, whatever, commercial loans, and so on and so forth. Owner financing is a great way, and so on and so forth. We can go into that in another webinar. But let's talk. Speaking of another webinar, our next webinar is going to be Mastering FHA Loans, a buyer's guide to affordable home ownership. That's going to be Saturday, November 18th, 2023 at 12 o'clock p.m. All right. So if you know someone that's interested in buying a home, and it's possible that they may want to use an FHA loan, I'm going to be going into the nitty gritty and really diving into FHA loans, what type of properties they're best for, excuse me, what type of properties that they may not be so great for, and all that good stuff, and all the pitfalls that you'll want to avoid with when buying property using an FHA loan. It's actually, if you want to register for that, it's actually on my website now. That is www.triniyah.com. Click on the events tab, and you should see it there. So you can register for that webinar. Again, if you guys, whether that's you or someone that you know, share the information. I will be sending out emails to everybody on my or on my buyers and such on my email list. I will be sending that out, so you probably get the information for that anyway. But yeah, share that, please, to anyone that's looking to buy a home within the next whenever. A lot of that stuff doesn't change. Some of it does change, some of it doesn't change. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys for today. Definitely thank you guys for joining this webinar. Yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm going to be looking at the comment section. If your question was not answered, I'm hoping that all the questions were answered. But if your question was not answered, just shoot me an email. Shoot me an email. Go to Cameron@Triniyah.com. Shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can. All right, but that's all I got for you guys for today. Again, thank you for coming. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. That's all I got for you. As always, thank you for your time, and make it a great day.